Thank you all very much for inviting me and for coming along this evening, and thank you, Robin, for your kind words, and Mo as well. I'll keep this short because there's an awful lot of wine here, and I hope you can do it justice. I recently asked somebody, are you coming to the book launch? They said, oh, you've written a new book. I said, yes. And what's it on? And I said, Teresa of Avila, and their eyes misted over, I can see it. Another book on Teresa of Avila. So I think I ought to explain why this is the third book. Dear Alan Simmons, our professor here, who's a great expert on Henry James. Conrad, Joseph Conrad. And when he gave a lecture, he gave his lecture on Conrad, he said, I always like talking about Conrad, because he pays the bills in our house. So I always feel a bit like that about Teresa of Avila. She pays the bills for me. But with Teresa, I wrote my first book on her a long time ago now, 15 years ago. It was a short book that a dear friend and colleague of mine asked me to write, called Bishop Graham Chadwick. Some of you may have known him. A wonderful man. And I'm dedicating my next book to him, actually. And Graham said, I want something that will make Teresa accessible and readable. So I wrote a very sort of simple book that really went to the, as both Robin and Mo suggested, went to the heart of Teresa's simple, homely way of writing. And she said at the time, don't use highfalutin terms. She said, use the homely, simple language of ordinary people. Well, that worked, and the book has stayed in print, remarkably enough, all these years. And then I got more and more interested in the subject, and then I did my doctorate on Teresa of Avila and Ludwig Wittgenstein. One of my colleagues, who remain nameless, said it was like writing your doctorate on Heidegger and vacuum cleaners. But anyway, I stuck to my guns, as Robin rather kindly said. I am a rugged individualist, and it paid off. I passed the doctorate, and then I needed to get it published. I haven't read any reviews of this yet. It's always an anxious moment. But I got an email today from quite an eminent scholar who just read the book, and she said she couldn't resist but guffaw on the train at one point when she came to a particular footnote. And that footnote was about how people have tried to make these links between Teresa's Jewishness and her Christianity. Now, in my previous book I wrote for Continuum on John of the Cross, in there I looked at the links between John the Cross and Muslims. And there I was rather scathing about one particular scholar who had claimed there was this very strong link, and I sort of poured a lot of cold water over that. Well, that scholar became a sort of stalker and has pursued me it's not been recorded, they've been pursued me for the last 5 or 6 years. So this time, when I came to write the comments in here, I had to put it in a much more couched term. Now, fortunately, that other scholar spotted what I was doing, and that's why she was guffawing on the bus. So when you come to read the book, do look out for that footnote encrypted in there. I think that's all I want to say for now, just to thank everybody for helping me to write this. Everyone at St Mary's, all my students here who've helped me so much. Robin and his wonderful staff at Bloomsbury who've been absolutely fantastic. So thank you all very much, and buy the book.
I was expecting to go last, so never experience. First of all, I mean, it brings me glad tidings of great joy to see you all here. And I know, like, no one's here to see me, but the fact that you didn't not come in order not to hear me is itself a kind of affirmation for me. And it's also a great honour to be launching this alongside two such beloved and distinguished colleagues, Peter and Bridie. I don't want to say too much about this. I suppose there's a very pertinent question about how a Catholic dogmatic theologian comes to be editing the Oxford Handbook of Atheism. So I'll tell you. It's not quite a Banana Man amazing double life, but I have a kind of a side string to my bow, if you like, as the gentleman amateur of the sociology of atheism. And I think possibly to the very week, 4 years ago, I published an article in New Scientist on the growing work, in particular the social sciences, on atheism, on indifference, on secularity, on non-religiosity. And Tom Perridge, who's an editor at OUP, who knew me because I had some theological things going through their process, thought that this would make a good handbook. And the fact that kind of I was the best they could do in finding someone to kind of put it together really does say a lot about how little work there was out at that time, and that's absolutely true. But I like the idea. It sounded like fun, and it sounded worthwhile. And I approached, for those in that area, a very famous British philosopher of science called Michael Roos, who's based in America and writes a lot on Darwinism and science and religion. Who's an atheist, and he's an atheist who a lot of other atheists don't like. I think he's described in God Delusion as the Neville Chamberlain of the science and religion conflict. But he was delighted to get going with it, and I mean, quite apart from the fact that I've had some role in bringing this to life, I'm delighted to see such a book out there, because there really isn't sort of big, broad, deep reference works on the kind of study of atheism out there. So we kind of had to start with a fairly blank page, but it also meant we could kind of come up I've been to these before. And it meant that we could kind of try and assemble a dream team of both kind of established scholars and emerging scholars, and it was a bit like in the Magnificent Seven, you know, going through. There was about 50 odd people who contributed to this, so we didn't get that far with the finger thing. But as I say, it's been about 4 years in the making. Books like this, you get to a point with them where you wish you'd never taken them on. You can't imagine them ever coming to fruition. And so to literally be able to see the back of them is a source of great joy. Pleased to have a flick through. Unlike my more mercenary colleagues, I have no intention or hope here of selling any copies of it. I mean, obviously it's not price shift. I assume OUP have a better knowledge of book selling than I do, and so I trust them on that. If any of you did sort of on the bus make a personal vow to yourself and to God not to leave here without my signature on something, and I'm sure that applies to very many of you, then there is another book that was launched a few months ago. There's still a few copies left. That's much cheaper. It's a more theological book, still on atheism. I don't have that many things I know anything about, and I'm running out of books to write on it, so I need to find something new. Finally, there's always loads of people to thank with a book like this. Michael, who can't be here, and Tom at OUP and the whole team at OUP, all the contributors, and sort of all my colleagues here at St Mary's. It's been a funny time through some of this. Anthony Towie was kind of instrumental in finding me the time in order to do things like this and that. And it's been in such a supportive environment, it's such a great place, and it's a delight to welcome you all here. So thank you.
My turn, right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for coming. If I wasn't involved in this night, I wouldn't be showing up at it at all. It's such a fulfilling evening. So thank you for that. And also, it's a great privilege for me to be, you know, the theological or the pastoral theological salami slice between these two theological heavyweights, dear colleagues at St Mary's. So it really is a privilege to be here. And I guess, you know, it is about saying thank you to lots of people. Ant, for example, and Ashley, they were involved in what eventually gave birth to this, which was a doctoral thesis on the state of the permanent diaconate. And the interesting thing about it was that no one really has done a similar thing in the UK. There have been lots of things, empirical work on the diaconate done elsewhere, but actually in the UK, no. And this is the golden anniversary year of the restoration of the permanent diaconate. It was done at the Second Vatican Council in 1964. So it's a good time to actually, you know, reappraise it. And when I started, I hadn't a clue about what the diaconate was all about. And I wanted, as I said in the introduction, to Robert Runsley, he once said that the church was like a large swimming pool with most of the noise going on at the shallow end. And, you know, so I wanted to take my theological sonar into the deep end to find out a little bit about what the permanent diaconate was all about. And there were 53 men from Southwark Province who were permanent deacons who told me their story. So 53 out of a total of 172, actually it was quite a good return. And these men shared their diaconal lives with me, how they had discerned their vocation, what they thought of their formation, how good, bad or indifferent it was, how they were received back in their parishes by their parish priest, by the congregation, by lay ministers, all of that, and how their ministry impacted on their professional lives, on their married lives, and on their family lives. So there was all of that, and also consideration about the deacon's wife. You know, there's some people out there in the pews who regard the deacon's wife as one of the valiant ladies from the early church, and there are some others who see her as Lady Macbeth. So there is a wide range of opinion out there. So basically that's what baptising babies and clearing gutters is all about. But the title itself is a bit intriguing, so if I can just get my little quotation out from my notes rather than opening the book. This is where the title comes from. One of the questions that the deacons were asked was, how does your ministry complement that of the priest and the bishop? Okay, so that was the survey question. And one of the 53 gave this as his answer. He says, primarily by being married, by living in the real world, where the mortgage has to be paid, the gutters cleared, the kids' vomit mopped up, the groceries bought, by standing in the dole queue, by having sex, by suffering. Very few priests and bishops have done all that, so the people can talk to you about it in the belief that you will understand. So that's where the title came from. Before I finish, actually, could I just make a special note of thanks to Matthew James Publishing, because before I approached Matthew James, I'd gone to another publisher, and they said that they wouldn't touch my stuff because I wasn't of the stature of Timothy Radcliffe. I reckon I'm probably a foot shorter than Timothy Radcliffe. But there you go. So they decided to do the ABBA thing at Matthew James. They took a chance on me. So I am deeply, deeply grateful to them. And closer to home on the thank you front, I would like to thank the family. My daughter Nicola's at the back there, leaving her husband and baby son back at home. There'll probably be chaos when you get home there. And the gutters and the rest. But my husband Tom is there as well, and you know, he has been absolutely unstinting and unfailing in his enthusiasm and affirmation of everything I've done, and added to it, he's an IT guru as well. So he made sure the hardware was right, the software was right, the antivirus software was right, the backups were done, the archiving was done. I mean, the man's a living saint. So Tom, thank you for that. I think I've probably said enough, don't you reckon? Men?
So I've read this book, it's brilliant, and if you can get 10 copies of that, one of this.